If you are thinking about picking one up, I just want to walk you through my experience, because I have been riding it in normal, everyday situations where an electric bike either makes life easier or starts to annoy you. What it is, in plain terms, is a commuter-style electric bike that also feels okay on light trails. I see it working best for someone who wants help on hills, wants to show up less sweaty, or just wants to stretch rides a little farther without turning it into a workout every single time. I have used it for short errands, a couple of longer rides around town, and some bumpy paths where the pavement is broken up and uneven. The reason it stood out to me is that it feels like it is trying to balance a few things at once. It is not a tiny folding bike, and it is not an oversized fat tire bike either. It lands in the middle. The frame feels sturdy, but it does not feel like a tank when I am moving it around. The overall shape is clean and simple, and it does not look awkward or overloaded with parts. In person, the aluminum frame feels solid when I grab it and rock it side to side. I do not hear a bunch of creaks, and it does not feel flimsy at the joints. The paint and finish on mine has held up fine so far, even after leaning it against walls and a couple of careless lockups where the frame touched the rack more than I meant it to. It is still an electric bike though, so you feel the weight when you lift it. Mine is right around 50 pounds, and that matters if you have stairs. I can carry it, but I do not love carrying it. Rolling it is no problem. Setup was not stressful, but I also would not call it foolproof. It came mostly put together, and I mainly had to get the front wheel on, line up the handlebars, install the pedals, and do a few adjustments. The instructions got me there, but I still took my time and double-checked everything, especially the brakes and the wheel alignment. If you have never assembled a bike before, expect to spend a little while on it, and expect to do a quick check again after your first ride because cables can settle and bolts can loosen slightly. After I finished, I did a short lap near my place and then rechecked the handlebar and brake feel. That second check gave me peace of mind. Day to day, it has been easy to live with. The battery is removable, which is one of those things that sounds small until you actually deal with it. I can bring the battery inside and charge it without dragging the whole bike near an outlet. The battery on this one is 468 watt-hours, and in my riding that translates to me not thinking about range on short trips and still feeling comfortable doing longer loops if I use pedal assist. I've gotten around 25 miles on electric only when I was intentionally testing it and not helping much. When I ride like I normally do, using pedal assist and adding my own effort, I can get closer to 45 miles, depending on wind, hills, and how often I stop and start. Something I did notice, and I want to say it plainly, is that it feels a little less energetic once the battery drops below about half. It still works, it still gets me where I am going, but the acceleration feels softer. That is common with a lot of electric bikes, and it is not a deal breaker, but it is worth knowing if you plan to ride far from home. Charging takes a few hours, so for me it has been an overnight thing or a charge while I am working. On the road, the motor is the part you feel immediately. It is a 500-watt brushless motor with a 1,000-watt peak, and what that means in real life is it does not feel fragile on hills. I have a couple of inclines near me that make some cheaper electric bikes struggle, and this one holds its speed better. It also merges into traffic more comfortably when I need to get across an intersection, and I do not want to feel like I am crawling. The top speed I see is about 23 miles per hour. I do not spend all day at that speed, but it is nice to know it can get there smoothly without feeling twitchy. The throttle is a half-twist style, and I prefer that because it feels easier to control than a full twist. On this bike, it has been predictable. It does not lurch on me, and it is not so sensitive that I am afraid of bumping it by accident. I use it in small doses. I will use it to get started from a stop or to help me clear a busy section, then I go back to pedal assist. The ride comfort is better than I expected for a bike in this category. The front suspension takes the edge off cracks and potholes. I rode it on a rough path where the surface changes from pavement to packed dirt and scattered gravel, and it stayed composed. It is not going to feel like a full suspension mountain bike, but it helps with hand fatigue and that constant rattling you get on rigid bikes. The suspension can be locked out, and I actually use that when I am on smoother roads because it makes the front end feel more direct. The seat and handlebars adjust enough for me to dial in a comfortable position. I am picky about fit, and I was able to get it to a spot where my wrists were not bent oddly and my knees felt natural while pedaling. The tires are 26 inches and they feel stable. On wet pavement, I still ride carefully, but the grip has been fine for normal city riding. On gravel, it tracks straight as long as I do not try to turn too aggressively. The display is an easy part of the experience, which I appreciate. It is a color screen, it is readable outdoors, and it gives me the basics I actually care about while riding, like speed, battery level, and assist setting. I do not want to stare at a screen when I am riding, so the fact that I can glance and understand it quickly matters. Switching between riding modes is straightforward, and I end up mixing them depending on where I am. On flat ground, I use a lighter assist. On hills, I bump it up. If I am tired or I am carrying something, I lean more on the motor. Braking feels dependable. This bike uses mechanical disc brakes. They are not as effortless as hydraulic brakes, but they have given me consistent stopping power, even on a downhill where I needed to slow quickly. I did have to do a small adjustment after my first couple rides because the lever feel changed slightly as the pads bedded in. After that, they have been stable. For safety and practical use, the headlight is genuinely bright enough that I feel comfortable being seen in low light. I have used it during early morning rides and it helps. There is also a horn and it is loud. I do not use it constantly, but when I needed to get someone's attention near a crowded path, it did the job. Handling is one of the nicer surprises. Even though it is about 50 pounds, it does not feel clumsy once it is rolling. It turns predictably, and it is easy to keep balanced at slower speeds. The quick-release front wheel has been useful once already when I needed to fit it into a tighter space. I also like knowing it will make a flat tire situation a little less annoying. There are a few things I would point out as limitations. The assembly is manageable, but if someone has never done it, they might want help or at least more time than they expect. The weight is reasonable for an electric bike, but it is still heavy enough that stairs are a real consideration. And like I mentioned, the performance feels a bit softer when the battery is low, so I plan my rides accordingly. Overall, after riding it the way I normally ride, this bike makes sense for commuting, casual riding, and some light off-road paths. It has enough power to feel helpful rather than just decorative, and it stays comfortable on rougher streets. It also fits my routine because the removable battery and straightforward controls make it easy to grab and go. You can find detailed information about the 5TH Wheel Mate electric bike in the comments section. See you in the next video.